All right, what's going on, people? We are, for the first time, testing out a Facebook and YouTube simulcast. The technology around here is off the charts. The Death Star was not built with more cutting-edge technology than we have here at the Rubin Report studios. So right now, you might be watching this on YouTube, you might be watching this on Facebook. It takes a little while for them to jump into the feeds on some of these things. But we're figuring out all kinds of ways to expand. I realize, actually, it's been over the last couple weeks, that I think we should be devoting more resources to what's going on Facebook. You know, interestingly, you guys probably know this, I do most of my interactions with people, or people who pretend to be people, are on Twitter, and I'm spending a lot of time during the day, although less and less these days, talking to anime avatars and Twitter eggs and things of that nature. And the thing is that if an egg walked up to me on the street, or a man in a pink wolf mask walked up to me on the street and started yelling at me about politics, I probably wouldn't respond to them. So why would I do that on Twitter? The beauty of what's happening on Facebook is that most of you are real people. I understand that some of you aren't, and some of you are in places where expressing some of your free speech stuff might not be that great, but I find the interactions on Facebook are becoming more and more valuable, and I am incredibly proud, as I say all the time, of the community that we've built on YouTube, because even though a lot of people are anonymous or unknown on YouTube, or it's alternate accounts or any of that stuff, the comment section in our videos is phenomenal. And even every now and again, like on, I'll talk a little bit about Glenn Beck shortly, but on our Glenn Beck video, the first one we put up, the comments were particularly messy because he brings out a certain craziness in people. That's how it is. That was my first question to him. What's it like being the type of person that people go bananas for? And in the first video that we posted, part one, the comments were pretty crazy. But people watched, and in video 2, the comments actually got a lot better. In video 3, which just went up yesterday, the comments were better than that. And I suspect that we did do a little something here, showing that some libertarians like Glenn Beck and some classic liberals like me have a lot of fertile common ground, and that sometimes you got to get past just the headlines. People saying, did he mash Cheetos on his face, and you talking about this crazy thing, that crazy thing? It's not about that. It's about trying to find some new allies in this space, because the world seems to be going off its axis. So anyway, we're doing a little test on both the YouTube and the Facebook. So we'll take some questions. So David and Amir are over there in our trusty control room. Emma is right down here. There is a dog on set. She's sleeping at the moment. If you ask some questions on the Facebook feed, we'll take questions there for today, and they're going to text them over to me. And I'll just fill you guys in on a couple things. So it was a crazy week, right? Like, I feel like for the rest of eternity, or certainly for as long as I'm going to continue to do this show, I'm going to always open up by saying it was a crazy week, and it certainly was. So just on a personal note, my week started on Saturday, I suppose, the craziness. I spoke up at Portland State University with 2 former guests of the show who I've become friends with. Christina Hoff Sommers, who many of you guys know, the factual feminist here on YouTube. And she's just a lovely, smart, wonderful gal. Just really enjoy her. And Peter Boghossian, who's been on the show, who's an assistant professor of philosophy up at Portland State University. And he hooked us up with the Center for Inquiry, which is Richard Dawkins' foundation. And we did a free speech talk in front of about 400 kids. There was supposed to be a big protest, but apparently they found something that was even more hateful than the 3 of us, so they protested something else. A couple protesters came in, a little bit of yelling, but we just had a great time, and I met so many cool kids after. And we had fun too. Like it was nice to be funny. I'm funny in front of crowds, which is nice, and I'm going to start doing a little more of that, as I've been saying. And it was just a great event up in Portland. And as some of you know, my favorite basketball player of all time is 80s to early 90s star Clyde Drexler. So I went over to Portland Memorial Coliseum, which is now the Moda Center's in front of it. That's where they play now. Checked out Drexler Drive and had some good Portland coffee and some micro brews, which they've got plenty of. I did that. Then I did a free speech thing over at UCLA on Wednesday with the Ayn Rand Institute. I was with Fleming Rose, who is the editor of the Danish newspaper that published the Muhammad cartoons back in 2005, which caused, a couple hundred people were killed after that. So he's a really interesting person. I actually interviewed him, which I think will be up next week. Fascinating guy, decent human being, really fighting for the right things, who suddenly got thrust into a worldwide craziness. So I sat with him and with Steve Simpson from ARI, who's a really interesting guy and a free speech warrior. And we took questions from kids, met a whole bunch of cool people after. And I'm looking in on a couple fronts of doing a lot more touring and going to the college thing. Hopefully we won't have quite the reaction that Milo gets from colleges, but we shall see. And then, of course, the big news of the week was the same night that I was doing the thing in UCLA. Milo's up at Berkeley. All hell broke loose. I'm seeing no condemnation really from the left, unfortunately. You have to stand for free speech when it is not the speech you like. Otherwise, you're not standing for anything, people. I'm trying to explain this over and over again, but I've seen some insane responses to the Milo thing. The mayor of Berkeley issued a response saying that Milo was either a white nationalist or a white supremacist. I think he said nationalist. Got like 200 retweets. I then retweeted him. I said, sir, Mr. Mayor, I've interviewed this guy several times. I know him. I've never heard him espouse any white nationalist views, which then the mayor of my tweet then got like 1,000 retweets or something, and then the mayor retracted that. And then Gavin Newsom, who is the former mayor of San Francisco and I think lieutenant governor of all of California, he has a tweet up right now saying that Milo is a white nationalist. I tweeted him several times, got thousands of retweets saying, can you provide any evidence? And of course not. This guy wants to be president one day. So this is the reaction from the left. And then on top of a couple other crazy things from a bunch of online morons. Anyway, so it's just, the free speech wars are upon us. And you have to remember that it only matters to defend free speech if it's something you don't want to hear. So if you just are going to defend things that you want to hear and pretend you're a warrior for free speech, then you're not. You are not. I don't like Nazis, but a Nazi can get out there, a Nazi. I don't even know that this Spencer guy's a Nazi. Like, people think that this is Indiana Jones. We should all be out there hunting Nazis. Find Brad Pitt, grab a couple friends, let's hunt some Nazis. The point is, I firmly believe that as long as this society hasn't come off its axis, and maybe it's on its way, that good ideas will beat bad ideas. So let these, just put it this way. This is the simplest way to argue for free speech and not for violence. On Wednesday, before Milo spoke, let's say he was at whatever level let's say he was at a 7 out of 10 in popularity, nationally, let's say he was at a 5 out of 10 in popularity of mainstream America. If they would have let him spoken or just done peaceful protests, nobody would have heard about him. It wouldn't have been mainstream news at all. Then they burn shit down, attack businesses, mace people. By the way, one of the girls that got maced, that you may have seen the video, is actually a fan of the show. I'm blanking on her name. I think it's Kira. And she was there supporting, or she was with her cousin who was there. One of them's a Clinton supporter, one of them's a Trump supporter. They were just there supporting free speech. But anyway, if you think about it, if people would have peacefully protested, or just not even showed up, you don't like Milo, don't show up. That's it. Okay, his people hear something, yada, 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 that's it. Then Milo doesn't get stronger. But does Milo seem stronger or weaker right now? Is the message that you hate of Milo, if you hate his message, is it stronger or weaker right now? I'm pretty sure you know it's stronger. He was on Tucker Carlson last night, that's national TV. He was actually supposed to be in here today, but then there were, I guess, some security issues, and apparently he was at the White House press briefing today, which I assure you he would not have been had they not done this. So they're strengthening their enemies while at the same time showing you they're taking good liberals, the last remaining liberals. You know, this is like, the last remaining liberals are basically like Jedi after Order 66. The few of us that are left scattered across the galaxy, and they're pushing everyone center and right. It's bananas. Anyway, do you have the Rubin Report mug? Comes with a trigger warning, people. Anyway, I'm going to take some questions from you guys, and we'll go for a little bit. By the way, if you haven't heard, Sam Harris is making his return to Real Time with Bill Maher tonight. I'm actually going to be in the audience. I'm inching closer to getting on the show, but I would rather actually Sam do it than me. So he will be back on tonight. And also on tonight is Tommy Lahren from The Blaze, who everybody seems to either love or hate. I was on her show this past week. I thought she was a totally nice person. You know, it was my only little interaction with her. Anyway, I'll knock out a couple questions, and then we'll see what's what. Emma is still sleeping over there. First question, any plans to talk to Jonathan Haidt? Haidt. Yeah, I've had him on the show, NYU professor of business and a huge free speech warrior. He's been on, I think it was about, I'd say it's about 8 months ago, maybe a little longer than that, but you can just put it in the YouTube search bar, you'll find it. Have you thought about doing more stand-up? Absolutely. This is what I was saying, like going in front of these kids again and seeing how they want to laugh. They want to laugh. They're being told they're awful, their thoughts are racist and bigoted. These guys want to laugh. Watch the, you know what, if we can put it in the comment section, you can check out the event that I did with Peter and with Christina. They posted it over at the CFI, the Center for Inquiry YouTube page. They posted the whole thing, and you'll see, like, I was basically starting to do stand-up in the middle of it, and I really do want to get back to that. And now that I know that if they put my name up somewhere, people will come and see me, which is nice, as opposed to just being one of 10 guys on there. It does make me want to do it more again. I guess I got something to say here. So if David and Amira if you guys could just throw up that link to the CFI YouTube video of me and Peter and Christina, that would be great. Let's see. Dave, do you think federal funding should be pulled from any schools that suppress free speech? Well, look, if you're a public university and you're not defending the laws of the land or behaving by the laws of the land and not defending free speech, then should you get public funding? Probably not. Now, it is a slippery slope because we still have, I guess they have to do a little research as to exactly what happened at Berkeley. So I assume you're talking about Berkeley here. So we have to figure out some of that stuff. But look, if things are going to be funded federally, I would rather most of these things be funded by the state, but even if you were being funded just by the state, you'd still have to uphold the very laws of the state to deserve to get that funding, right? So like, for example, let's say, it's a federal law to have handicap ramp access to certain buildings. If you chose not to do that at a college that was being funded federally, then you probably wouldn't get federal funding. So I would view free speech in the same way that I would view that. Because free speech is the on-ramp to ideas. How is that? When, if ever, do you think left-wing politicians will disavow the violence at UC Berkeley and NYU, which Gavin McInnes was over at NYU, and there was some rioting? Does it surprise you they haven't yet? Look, it doesn't surprise me. And for all of you that are watching this show and that have watched sort of what I do over the last couple of years, and what so many of the people that I've had on the show, from Sam and Majid and Ayan and Ali Rizvi and Sarah Hayter and Peter Boghossian and Gad Saad and so many of the others, Douglas Murray, what we've all been talking about is that we've seen this coming. Watch the shows. My opinions on things, I've changed a little bit. I keep saying I've changed a little bit on that. I'm a little more now for small government. I think some of my economics have shifted a little bit in a more libertarian sense. But beyond that, everything that I believe that was pretty much what I basically believed about 20 years ago in the liberal sense. We all saw this coming. We all saw this coming. If you will not deal with difficult issues without resorting to these words and ending conversation and demonizing everybody, then of course we were going to end up in an authoritarian situation versus a violent situation. And now we have a match to do it. That's what I did a video a couple weeks ago, that this is the match made in hell now, is what we're at, is where we're at. So I don't see them doing it. I don't see them doing it. Look, I see people like, Gavin Newsom, again, he's a perfectly nice guy. I interviewed him once on a red carpet in LA a couple of years ago. He was extremely nice. But like, this is crazy. You have a guy who was the mayor of San Francisco, former lieutenant governor of California, tweeting out that a private citizen is a white nationalist. And then when people ask him about it, he doesn't even respond, and don't pretend you didn't see my tweet. It got thousands of retweets. So this is a problem. This is a real problem. And I don't see any leaders. Where was Bernie or any of the leaders doing the right thing last night, saying, or 2 nights ago, all you had to do, I don't like any of the things Milo says, but I will defend his right to say them. That is the spirit of free speech, okay? But none of them did it. I saw people this morning saying that it was a right-wing conspiracy to put the protesters, the rioters out there. Most people just ignored it altogether. Some people said, yeah, you should be out there punching Nazis. This is the left. Look at the video that I did last week. I stand by it, and I think there's a reason that it caught fire. I think it had 1 million views on Facebook, a couple 100,000 on YouTube. The left is no longer liberal. If you are liberal, if you are a liberal person and you're into logic and reason and rights of the individual, these are not ideas of the left anymore. The left is about collectivism now. The left is about a pecking order of how we should treat each other. And this is a huge problem. This is a huge problem. And for all the people that I referred to a little while ago that tried to get some of this stuff fixed, well, maybe we didn't fix the left and the left just kept getting deeper and deeper, but I do think we have a new center developing, and which is why when I sat here just this week with Glenn Beck, who many people would say he's a far-right maniac and he's a whatever. I mean, people were saying all kinds of crazy things about him. I would welcome you to watch the show. I would welcome you to watch the show, and even if you don't agree with him on everything, and of course you won't agree with him on everything, you shouldn't agree with anyone on everything, including me, you'll see that we had a lot in common. We had a lot in common in trying to build some bridges. He's already agreed to do the show again. We talked about role of government stuff, which he really understands. He has a great history, a great knowledge of history of the United States. There's so much opportunity here to find somebody that if you would have said to me 3 years ago, right? If you would have said when I was on TYT or I was part of the left more, if you would have said to me 3 years ago, 4 years ago, you know, you're going to sit across from Glenn Beck and you're going to go, wow, this is a guy that I think we can do some good stuff with, right? That me as a non-believer, him as a believer, but we can find some tenets of society that we can move forward on. And that's why there is absolutely, trust me, the free speech stuff is just building into the mainstream. So you guys watching this, you watch stuff online. So you're ahead of the curve on this, right? And just look at the garbage reporting on CNN. Notice everybody, all mainstream, every time they mention Milo, they go troll, noted troll Milo, or white supremacist, or white nationalist. Why can't they just say, why are they giving him an adjective like that? Milo, a right-wing, a conservative writer, or whatever you want to say, that's actually factual, not adjective-based, which is what they're doing. But for all of you that saw it first, you guys have woken up to this stuff, but it's just getting to mainstream think right now. And we're going to still be ahead of it because we were ahead of it before. So we just have to keep our wits about us. But there's an awesome new alliance developing here. And I can see, I tweeted something about how I think the new center could include a guy like Beck because I saw he wanted to build bridges. And of course I had these idiots attacking me on Twitter. Yeah, oh, you see, they want the new center. It's going to include far-right maniacs like Glenn Beck. Yeah, your shit's not working anymore. It's not working anymore, and everybody knows it. And we're just going to keep moving forward. All right, let's see. What do we got here, people? Please interview Ayaan Hirsi Ali. She's one of the greatest people on earth. If she had been born in America and could run for president, I'd vote for her. I had her on the show early on. I think it was about November of 2015. So you can find that on YouTube, and I'd love to have her back for sure. What's it like to hold your views in LA? Can a Midwest liberal make it in Hollywood? That's funny. You know, I'm born in Brooklyn. I grew up in Long Island. I lived in New York City my whole life, basically went to college in upstate New York. So I'm a true New Yorker, like a true New Yorker. I moved here 4 years ago. I think I got here today. I think it was February 3rd. David, give me the thumbs up if I'm right. I think it was 4 years ago today that I got to LA. I didn't even realize that till just now. That's pretty crazy. But a New Yorker my whole life and an LA person now. So I'm not sure if you're referring to me as a Midwesterner, although some people say my accent sounds kind of Midwestern. But yes, you can. There is actually a lot of diversity of thought out here. It's not just the liberal Hollywood elite or whatever you want to call it, that whole thing. It really isn't. You can find, it's also not just fake plastic people. You can find an intellectual area, group of people here. You can find the fakeness and you can find the Hollywood stuff and all that. But there's a lot of cool stuff out here. But more important than any of that is that the real beauty, and this is why I will always be indebted to all of you that support me and watch our videos, but especially to the people that have joined us on Patreon, whether you're given $1 a month or $250 a month or whatever it is that I don't have to be part of any of that if I don't want to. I have a studio in my house. I have a direct camera to you, and that's it. I can be part of that if I want to be part of that, and I don't have to be part of it. And I get offers. I got a really interesting, fairly high money offer in the last week or so, and I don't have to take anything because I don't need it. So much like anything else, it is what you make of it. The world is what you make of it, and LA is the same way. Does the amount of executive orders being passed scare you in any way? Yeah, look, I was against executive orders. You can find evidence of it when George W. Bush was doing them. I was against them when Obama was doing them, and I was against them now that Trump is doing. But here's the thing. If we have a Congress, a Senate, and a House that refuses to legislate, where are they? Why aren't they trying to pass bills, right? Republicans, you're in now. Pass some bill. Do this right. You're supposed to legislate, write the laws. The Supreme Court, the court system is supposed to decide whether they're legal. I say this every week, and the president is supposed to execute the laws, sign it, put it in. But because the legislative branch has been so highly dysfunctional, and by the way, a lot of fault goes on the Republicans there. They refused to sign anything with Obama for all these years, or very little. By the way, at the same token, Obama it was known not to really want to negotiate. They used to say that Bill Clinton was a great negotiator, loved the process of politics, the process of you want this, I want this, let's meet here. So both sides kind of sucked. But the huge problem with executive orders is what we're seeing right now. You should be against executive orders. I'm not saying they have no role, because sometimes I suppose, I can't really think of a great argument for them, but I suppose there could be some valid argument for them, and I'll actually find a good constitutional law professor to talk about that with. But you should be against them either way, because look what's happening right now. Obama did a lot of things by the pen, and Trump's just undoing them by the pen. This isn't a way to govern. This is not a way to govern. We're supposed to govern the way our system is supposed to be set up, but we've ceded so much power to the executive branch. We've taken away power from the legislative branch, and that's a huge problem. So we got to figure out how to get that. So regardless of who is president, I don't want to be governed that way. And it's not a sustainable way for our American system to work. It's a sustainable way for a king to operate, but not how we're supposed to work. Let's see. Any luck getting Thomas Sowell on the show? Okay, so he just retired publicly. He's 84 years old. I would love to have him on. We've reached out a bunch of times. We've had some interaction, and it's not clear whether he's going to be doing any interviews going forward. However, Larry Elder, who's a good friend of his, said that he would reach out on my behalf. So hang tight on that. I really do hope that it happens. Let's see. Amira is saying that I do not sound like a Midwesterner. Okay, good. People have told me that before. Let's see. My question would be, what is your opinion on, I guess it's Antifa, the Antifa movement? Is it a genuine threat, or is it yet another instance of leftists screeching and acting out instead of arguing? So it's a little unclear to me exactly what the Antifa thing is. So Antifa meaning anti-fascists. Now for a group of anti-fascists, they seem to like fascism a lot because they want to shut everybody else down, silence people, punch Nazis, burn buildings, attack Starbucks, and a series of other things, right? So who's that great quote from? Somebody will get it. There's that quote that often gets attributed, I think, to Winston Churchill about how the fascists of the future will say that they're anti-fascist, but I'm pretty sure it's not actually Churchill. Someone can check that for me. And that's what's happening right here. We cannot give an inch to these people. Does anyone know how many of these people were arrested at Berkeley? I couldn't find anything out on that. Every single one of them should have been arrested. If you are attacking people, macing people, attacking public property, running around wearing a mask in the street with a bat, you should be arrested. Is this a society that any of you want to work on? Again, none of that is a defense of Milo's ideas. And again, I like Milo. Do I agree with him on everything? No. Have I directly questioned him sitting in that chair about things that I disagree with him on? Yes. Watch both our interviews. Watch 2 hours of us together to see some of the stuff that we agree on and some of the stuff we disagree on. Has Milo been right about a lot of things? Absolutely, yes. But all of that is irrelevant. We cannot have a mob, and that's what this is, a mob trying to rule us. And if we have a mob trying to rule us and using violence to do so, well, guess what? If you have a president that's willing to crack down on that, then it's just going to smash together, as I said before. It's a doozy of a problem, people. Okay, I agree. Milo has the right to say whatever he wants, but should he do it the way he does? He's a self-described provocateur. I don't think his tactics are helping the national discourse, the opposite of what you accomplish on your show. So I think that's a perfectly fair critique of Milo, and I would gladly ask him that. Actually, I was supposed to have him on today, and I was going to ask him something of that nature, basically saying, Milo, I agree with your right to say whatever you want, but are you doing something that ultimately could damage the country and could fray more and get more people angry than do good? Now, I suspect his answer would be no to that. My personal feeling is that I have to defend, first off, he's not calling directly for violence for anyone, as far as I know, and I would not defend that, okay? But forgetting that, we have to defend the principle of free speech. We have to. We just have to. And think about it this way. Let's say a real Nazi. Let's say there was a real Nazi wearing a Nazi uniform, with a little Nazi mustache and doing his Nazi things. Let's say there was a real Nazi and he spoke at UCLA. He spoke at Berkeley, right? Nazi at Berkeley. Here he is tonight. I would guess that probably around 20 people would show up, and they'd be very embarrassed to show up, but they would show up. And if you let the Nazi talk, he probably wouldn't convince many people of anything, because I'm a firm believer that most people actually are good, and most people actually can see through the bullshit, and most people actually don't judge people by their sexuality or their skin color or their religion or where they're from. And if you let the Nazi talk, it would be upsetting. Would it be upsetting that a Nazi was there and that somebody actually would think that that's okay in 2017? Of course it is. Of course it is. But by attacking the Nazi, you strengthen the Nazi. So I agree with you that perhaps what Milo is doing is, well, is it helping the national dialogue? You know, it's interesting. I think Scott Adams, who I've had on the show, would say yes, because he would say, you know, these bombs, so to speak, create chaos, and out of that chaos, some good things can happen. So I think in the positive side, look, Milo throwing out all this craziness has also led a lot of people to realizing what's happening on the left. Maybe me more casually talking about it, or plenty of other people calmly, rationally talking about it, wasn't going to be the thing that got a lot of people on the left to wake up and see what was happening. But now they're waking up and they are coming to the center. Liberals are actually standing up for liberalism again. We're still on the front end of it. And again, you guys who watch stuff online like this, you are absolutely on the front end of it. You're way ahead of the cable news nonsense. And look at the headlines of the way they frame everything. It's garbage. It's garbage. So I can only defend, I can't defend all his ideas, and that's not the point of free speech, but I can defend his ability to do it. Whether it's good or bad for the nation is sort of secondary to all that. So it was, a few people have asked, so is Milo coming on soon? So we're trying to figure it out. There's a chance we can do it next week. I mean, there's a security issue now, and I think there's also just like, there's a lot of craziness related to it, but I hope that it will, that'll happen soon. You know, we'll go another like 7 minutes or so. So fire them off if you got a few more. And what else can I tell you in the meantime? They're gonna grab a couple. So we had Glenn Beck, which was great. I think you're really going to enjoy this thing that we did with Fleming Rose. Really an interesting thing, and also try. You know, what people forget is, I think when you see public people, is that they're humans. Also, these are actual human beings. And Fleming Rose was a very decent guy and reporter and everything else before he did this Danish cartoon contest about Mohammed. And a couple days later, you know, there's 200 dead people in parts of the world he had never been to because of these cartoons, which really shows you the idea of ideas and how ideas can make people do horrible things, right? But how much this guy's life was affected by that. Had to go into hiding for a while, now has to live with security and all that stuff. There's people behind this stuff too. And if you think right now, if you watching this right now, think that the state of free speech is in a more dangerous spot than it was 3 years ago, well, certainly I would agree with you. And if you think your ability to say what you think, and I'm not saying that you can just, so you can run around being a racist asshole, although you're welcome to do it, but if you think that there's a risk in that, then you better speak up. The number one question that we got in these last couple events that I did was, what kids were asking, well, what can I do? What can I do? How do I be part of this thing? And it sounds cliche to say this, but the simple truth is that I'm just some guy that happens to be doing this, okay? That's it. And it's a beautiful thing that you come to me for this, and I know what my mission in life on earth is. But the beauty is that we need you. It's the beauty and the horror of this thing. We need you guys to step up. I'm just one guy. Let's get a couple other guys in there to all do this together. Let's fight for the right things in this country together and build some bridges instead of burning everything down. I burn a couple every now and again. I'm not perfect, but I think we can build something awesome. But we need young people to stop being afraid. They've been told they're racists and bigots and homophobes for so long. They're afraid to say anything. They're afraid to post things on their Facebook page. Let's win. Let's win. All right, where are we at here? The sweater, where did you get it? It's legit, and I want it. I think I got this thing for $15 at H&M. That's H&M, yeah, that's H&M right there. I got it for like $15 at H&M. I love a good hoodie. I don't have a lot of clothes. You know, I got like 5 sports jackets that I wear on the show. I got like 15 shirts that I mix up. I got 3 pairs of jeans I like. Got a lot of hoodies. I love the hoodie. Do you think European countries like Germany and Sweden can recover from their refugee crisis, or is it too late for them? So, you know, I've done a bit on this with a few different people. I had Tino Sanandaji from Sweden, because I had so many people saying, you got to talk about Sweden, you got to talk about Sweden, and I couldn't get anybody. He was one of the few people that was on the list of people to talk to from Sweden about it, but but a lot of people won't talk about it. I should get someone from Germany on for sure to discuss that. I think there's a major problem. There is a major problem. And if you don't believe there's a major problem, you're really missing what's happening here, because they let in about 1.1 million people. Now forget religion for a second. If you let in 1.1 million people could have come from anywhere on earth, there is a certain strain on the system if you're going to give those people things. I read somewhere, and I'm going to slightly butcher this, but I read somewhere that that Germany's giving them free dental, like that's part of the health package that the refugees get, and that it's going to cost something like 1.1 billion euros or something to give them free healthcare, or free dental work. That's a lot of money that comes out of other people's pockets. And then you could see why some people would be resentful of that. And then on top of it, then you have, rape crises and terrorism and trucks driving into people in Paris and in Belgium and in other places. Just this morning at the Louvre in Paris, a guy was wielding a machete and he was shot. I don't think he's dead. But the point is that there's been something unleashed here because of the way they've dealt with their borders, and people crossed borders. And ISIS actually says we're trying to infiltrate your countries by putting people in with the refugees, and it creates a problem. And is what Trump did right? Is it right? You can watch my feelings on it. I did a direct message on it this week. Watch the hour that I did with my good friend and truly wonderful human being, Faisal Saeed al-Mutar, who's an Iraqi refugee who lives here now and fights for human rights and fights for secularism and all the right things. And he could be at risk if he was to go to Canada, that maybe he couldn't get back into the United States. I mean, that's crazy. So there has to be a middle ground, and we got to start fighting for it. It's so obvious that the people on the far left and on the far right are going to go off the deep end if they have not already. And that's going to keep taking the earth with them. And we got to stand ground now. Stand ground. If you're a functioning human being with a couple neurons firing left in your brain and you like reason and logic, stand your ground now, because there ain't going to be much ground to stand on soon enough. I'd love to see you interview some people on the far left and watch them try to validate their insanity in the face of your calm, rational questions. Yeah, I would love to. First off, I've had a whole bunch of people on the left. So I know that some of the Twitter eggs go, you don't have enough people on the left. You don't have enough people on the left. Now, first off, most of my guests, I would guess, are liberals, actually. Now, the issue of are liberals still on the left?